Hello everyone. This is Dr. Rachita Misra speaking to you. Today we are going to discuss the process quality and the capability maturity model. The topics that we will cover today are the CMMI model for process quality, the CMMI process areas, its capability and maturity levels. Then we will cover the ISO 9000 quality management system, the process assessments for an organization, and then we will deal with two other quality systems, PSP and TSP, which help in establishing process quality. So what is capability maturity model? The Software Engineering Institute at Carnegie Mellon University in USA, they have developed a process meta model to measure an organization's process adherence capability and its level of process maturity. So it's only a meta model, it's kind of a framework, and the framework is not for defining the process but for assessing how well an organization is adhering to the process and what is the maturity level in adhering that process. It provides a measure of the process of quality, the quality of the process used for software development in the organization, which is measured across the projects. So if we say that the say CMMI for a particular level is satisfied, what it means is that that particular organization, all its projects are satisfying that particular level, so their quality of their process is for a particular level. So what does SEI recommend? It recommends that the organization will develop their own process model, and their process model that they will develop should conform to the CMM guidelines, so that when they are being assessed, they can know at what level they are performing their processes. Originally, CMMI had three different standards. In the software area, they dealt with three different type of industry, software industry. The first one was a product and service development industry. The second one was service establishments and management, that is those kind of IT industry who provide services or manage the IT services. Then there are another standard for product and service acquisitions. And then what CMMI did was that for this development, the product and the service, all the three were integrated, because there were many industry which provided more than one. So that is why they integrated these and they call it CMMI, that is Capability Maturity Model Integration. And from their version 2.0 onwards, this was available. So let's look at what is their process structure. The CMMI process structure, they recommend that you need to have certain process areas. These process areas are the key areas for maintaining the consistency of the software quality. These CMMI process areas, in turn, are being defined in terms of goals and practices. So there are two types of things. One is a specific goal, specific practice, and generic goal and generic practice. So specific goals are used to establish the characteristics that must exist. If it doesn't exist, then the activity will not be effective. That process area cannot be satisfied. And for satisfying these specific goals, we need to have some actions or practices. So specific practices are used to refine the goal into a set of process-related activities which can be practiced or worked upon. And when they are worked upon successfully, then they will achieve the specific goal, and the specific goal will point to the effectiveness of the process area. Then the CMMI also includes certain generic goals and the generic practices. We will see soon what are examples of these practices and the goals. So if you take the area structure in a diagrammatic way, you can have a category of processes within which you have a process areas. So for each process area, there will be specific goals, specific practices, and you can also have specific sub practices under a single practice. And similarly, you will have generic goals, generic practice, generic sub practices. So if you have, let us say for a process area category, if you have 10 process areas, then you will have 10 such goals, and for each process area, you will have 5 generic goals. We will see that how it is done. Now let's look at what is capability levels, because we have said that CMMI is helping the organization to assess its capability level. So there are 5 levels that are defined. Actually, level 0 is a non-performing level. So it is like a non-existent level. It starts from level 1, which is called as initial or performed. And again, this is not assessed because all institutions are assumed to be at level 1. So what minimum at a level 1? At a level 1, what we can expect? That specific goals of a project are performed as defined by CMMI at individual project level. So each individual level, at each individual project is satisfying its goal, but the projects are conducted in an ad hoc manner. It is not properly defined manner. Processes may or may not be documented. So in a particular project, it may not have a documented project, a documented process for that particular project, and definitely at the organization level, there is no process document. And therefore, it is many times called as a initial level or a chaotic level. The assessment mostly starts to be in a level 2. Minimum organization has to be in a level 2 to be called as a good quality process capability. It is level 2 is normally known as a managed level or a repeatable level. So here we have to satisfy these criteria and then all these other criterias. What it says that process discipline is established for projects which can be repeated for other projects. That means it is not ad hoc manner. It is not that one project has a plan and the other project doesn't have a plan. One project has a process defined and the other one does not have. So every project has some kind of project process defined, and these can be used and other projects can be repeated. If the project is of a similar nature, then we can take the process of the older projects and repeat it. And stakeholders are actively involved, and the software teams doing the work have access to adequate resources to get the job done. That means there is some commitment from the management to provide resources, and the stakeholders of the project, like the customer and the management and the team, all the three are involved into the management of the project. Project management processes are defined and they are also followed. Work tasks and products are monitored, controlled, reviewed, and also evaluated for conformance to the description of the process, whatever it is supposed to achieve. Then we have the level 3, 4, and 5. The level 3 is normally called as a defined level. So here what happens is that each project is having a process, defined process, but here that process is getting institutionalized. Management and engineering processes are defined and documented. They are standardized and integrated into organization-wide software process. So there is a software process that is there in the organization, and with this help of this process, the other project processes are named, and these project processes are both management as well as engineering processes. And they are not only defined, they are well documented, they are available to the complete organization as well as to all the stakeholders. And they are practiced, refined, and standardized across the projects of the organization. And they form a part of the software process. The way the organization has defined its software process and policies, they are part of it. It is integrated into it. At level 4, apart from being in level 3, we are having additional criteria which make it quantitatively managed. As you can see, that it is not only managed, defined and managed, but it is also following certain quantitative methods. So the first one is measurements are collected and certain metrics are computed. These metrics are defined in the project process. So initially it is decided, it is planned what metrics will be created, how the metrics will be, the data will be collected, how the measurements will be done, and how the metrics will be computed, at what frequency they will be computed. Then the software process and products performance characteristics and are quantitatively understood by evaluating these metrics. So these metrics are taken at a certain interval and they are reviewed so that a particular, it can be a process metrics or a product metrics. So the software process or the software products performance can be monitored, can be understood, can be evaluated. So these are some of the examples of the metrics, process metrics: number of defects found per hour, average time to repair a defect, number of failures per LOC, and so on and so forth. The quantitative goal is set and the process is controlled using the measures and the assessment. So since we have past projects, we actually at the defined stage, it is expected that the organization will create a repository of projects, which is normally called as the project database. And in this database, the past projects, all the information is stored. So since there is history of the projects and their way of working, the metrics that they have done, so, and how much they have achieved, what is the metrics they have achieved, what is the value of the metrics they have achieved for each kind of quality, process quality or product quality criteria. So, by taking the capability of what the organization is capable of doing, a quantitative goal is set for each of these process metrics and the product metrics. And by using this and by the measurements of the current project, the process characteristics, project performance is controlled. Then tools, statistical tools and causal analysis tools such as Pareto charts, fishbone diagrams, and many such tools are available. They are used to continuously monitor and analyze, and the root cause of this, if there is a failure or a deviation, then the root cause of these deviations are tried to found, and based on that, some kind of not only corrective actions but also some kind of preventive action can be done so that in future such kind of defects don't appear. Then we come to the level 5, which is known as the optimized level. This is the highest level of CMMI. In this, additional to these criteria up to 4, we need to have what is known as a continuous process improvement, which is enabled by the quantitative feedback from the process and testing out innovative ideas. So based on the quantitative feedback, wherever there is failure, the team members try to work out some innovative ideas and change the process for improvement. Best practices from other projects based on the project database are taken out, and also some innovative tools are created to improve the methods, improve the process, and the effectiveness of this improvement is also checked. And once the improvement is consistent, then the goal also can be altered, they can be increased, so that the projects will continuously try to attain higher and higher goals. And also there is a lot of emphasis on trying to automate project activities by using of tools so that the quality will improve. Now let's look at what is continuous versus staged. There are two types of assessment that an organization can go through in CMM. SCI provides two types of assessment. One is called a continuous assessment, the other is called as a staged assessment. In the continuous assessment, what happens is the process areas are assessed and they are assessed for its capability level. So those 5 levels that we have just now seen, for each process area, in which level it is, whether it is in level 2 or level 3 or level 4 or level 5. For example, suppose we take 3 process areas like project planning, requirement management, and configuration management. Then one organization, when they measure it across different projects, they may find that for the project planning PP, it is in level 3, whereas in requirements management it is in a little lower level 2, and but in configuration management it is in a much higher level, in level 4. In staged assessment, it is not the process areas that are assessed, but a set of process areas are assessed. So at each level we associate a set of process areas, or a category of process area is defined for a level, and those set of process areas are together assessed for assessing a particular level. So here we are assessing the capability of the process areas, but here we are assessing the maturity of the level. If an organization displays enough capability of quality compliance in all the process areas of that particular level, then it is considered to be in that level of maturity. At any point, an organization's process quality can be in any one maturity level, but an organization can move stage by stage to higher maturity level. That means today, if it is at level 2 or at level 3, then after improving its process, it can go to level 4 or level 5. So because of the staged assessment, we need to define a set of process areas and associate it to the maturity level. So if we start from the bottom, performed, it is the initial level. So as we have seen, it is a chaotic level. So we don't assign any process areas. SCI has not assigned any process areas to it. But starting from level 2, the managed or repeatable level, where they have defined the focus areas of each level, and for each level they have given a set of process areas. These are defined in the CMMI, the latest versions. They are going on giving guidelines for it. And if a person wants to be assessed at managed level, then all these process areas have to be assessed for level 2. And similarly, if it wants to be in a defined or a level 3, then all these process areas have to be assessed for the quality compliance. This is a graphical method of showing how the CMMI staged representation, how it is staged assessment for the 5 maturity levels. So one can go progressively, stage by stage, from level 1 to managed level, defined level, quantitatively managed level, and optimizing level. The process maturity increases as the level increases. And in the highest level, process performance is continuously improved. There is a lot of innovations. Incrementally, it goes through every time. And there is a lot of technological improvements also, and tools are added. In this quantitatively managed, we have seen that processes are controlled using statistics and other quantitative techniques. Metrics are one of the major measurements, and metrics are one of the major areas. In level 3, these are not only understood. In level 2, it is planned, documented for a particular at project level, but here it is standardized over the organization level. Now let's take a little deeper look at the CMM process area. So we'll take some examples. In CMMI, we have said that each process area is to be defined in terms of specific goals and specific practices. So if you take this is a process area, project planning is the process area. So then we can define a goal. We can define multiple goals. So let's say the first goal is establish estimates. Under established estimates, if this is our goal, we need to have some practices which can be actioned to achieve this goal. So we can have these 4 practices. So SP 1.1 says determine the scope of the project, and SP 1.2 says identify work products and task attributes within this scope. So whatever is the scope for it, we will define this. Then we'll also define the life cycle process or the process model that we will follow. And based on these work products, task attributes, and the life cycle process, we will try to estimate the effort to be used to be that is required to carry out the project. And then we will see we will take into account the resource costs and the resource rates and other costs, and we will determine the cost of the project. Then we can have multiple goals, and for each goal we can have so many practices. The specific practices, as we have seen, describe the goal in terms of the process related activities or actions. Using these activities, the specific goal is to be achieved. Now then we can see the generic goals. We said that there are generic goals, and these generic goals, for each process area, we need to have at least 5 generic goals. In the case of specific goals, it is not defined how many. We can have 1, we can have 10 also. But it all depends on the process area, what is the description of that process and what kind of actions we have to do, what kind of goals we have to achieve. But in case of generic goals, they are tied down to the levels. So each process area has to be tied to the level. So if you take the project planning area, then you have to have the GG1. You can have achieve a specific goal of, that means specific goal for the project planning area. That can be one of the goals for level 1. And in level 2, you can say institutionalize a managed process. So that can become, and then you can have the practices for it. For the level 3, we can say institutionalize a defined process, because it has to be defined. So we can establish defined processes in the organization. So that can be an actionable item for satisfying the generic goal. And then in GG4, we can say institutionalize a quantitatively managed process. So we have to establish quantitative targets for the process. So not only that each project will set its targets, also at a organization level, what is the target that will be determined, and each project has to make their target accordingly, adapt to the institution target. And at the highest level, we have the optimization, institutionalized, and optimizing process. So there has to be a policy for the optimization of projects process, and so accordingly the practices will be written. Having said the CMMI models, we should see some other models that is also used. This ISO 9000 is a generic model given by the International Standards Organization for measuring the quality compliance level of different types of organizations, and it is very much applicable to the service organizations as well as the different engineering organizations, engineering industries. So we will only look at those, the framework of ISO 9001. I think it is a 2000 version, which is applicable to software. we will limit it. So we will go into 3 subsystems that it tries to put it as subsystems. Within the subsystem, it has topic areas, and within the topic areas, it has many clauses which explain. So for each one of this, you need to have some actionable items. So we will go into 3 areas, which is organization management, and then we will see the product management, and then we will see the development management. So in product management, in organization management, it is basically comes to management responsibility, and that means commitment from the management for the ISO 9000 type of quality compliance. So there should be quality policy, there should be somebody responsible, a representative to not only define the quality policy, maintain it, but also to conduct internal audits and see that it is effectively implemented across the project, all the activities of the project of the organization. And you need to have a quality system. The quality, there is a guideline for the ISO 9000 quality model. So accordingly, quality system has to be documented and maintained. It will have all the procedures of the organization. Then there is document control. So all the documents, which means the quality management, the policies, the guidelines, the QMS, its procedures, its forms, standards, guide, everything has to be not only documented, it has to be circulated, implemented, and also it needs to be any changes have to be in a controlled manner, and it has to be under configuration management. Then you have corrective and preventive action, how to deal with any defects, and how to take care of the corrections, and how we will analyze the cause of the error, and how to take preventive measures so that errors don't recur. You have quality system records. This is basically confirming that the steps taken to perform quality control of the process, how the quality was controlled for each process, how the quality was controlled, what are the methods of checking, inspection, testing, and so on and so forth, all the quality assurance and quality control processes, whether they were carried out, whether the record exists or not, how it is carried out. And then finally, under the quality management, the organization management, we have training, because organizations, the resources keep changing. So training needs of the organization staff is covered under the organization management. Then you have the product management. Under product management, we have product identification and management. We have control of customer supplied product. Then purchasing, which is vendor supplied products or materials. We have handling, storage, packaging, preservation, the method of deliveries, and control of non-conforming products. So if something is produced, how it is disposed. If it is non-conforming, how we separate it from the released products, how it is identified. So at the top stage, the product, the actual product, the project that we are taking, the work product has to be identified, and it has to be under configuration control. Similarly, materials that the customer might have given their environment or their tools to use for the project, those need to be checked, quality checked, and that record has to be kept, so that we know that there is no quality defect coming from these materials. Materials that are brought from the suppliers also need to be checked according to, and they need to conform to a particular criteria that is given in the quality management system, so that there is no quality problem from our supplied materials. Then this is what we have said. We have to handle the storage, packaging, delivery. How we will handle it, that has to be a documented procedure, and we have to follow it, and that we have followed it has to be documented. Then the development process, the software development process. the management of that particular development process. We have start with the contract review. This is a contract, especially for the outsourced projects. It is a contract between the organization which is developing and the customer who has given the requirements to develop the software for them. So the contract should be cleared. It should have good quality, clarity. It should be feasible. A feasibility study should have been conducted to check that it is possible for the organization to carry out. It has the resources, it has the capability, and if all these things should be there in a contract, and it should be properly reviewed. There should be a proper contract review document available with the organization. Then we come to the process control. The development process should be documented and managed with quality plan, identifying tasks that satisfy the quality requirements. So not only that the development process should be there, it should be documented, it should be managed, and it should have the quality plans. The quality plans that will identify which tasks will have to be under quality assurance and what kind of quality requirements they have to satisfy, so that the quality assurance can be done on those criteria. Then design and development control. So design and implementation, that is the construction process or the program coding process, has to be controlled. And not only that, it has to be controlled, it has to be versioned, and it has to go under configuration management procedure. Better that it go through a configuration management tool, and the change controls has to be very rigid. Otherwise there will be mix up, because they are all dynamically changing in the project, in the life cycle of the project. The inputs to the design have to be verified before we start the design process. What are the inputs? The main input to the design is normally the requirement specification. So it has to be verified in terms of adequacy. That means whether it is complete, everything, nothing is omitted. And also the output of the design should be verified for compliance to the whatever is the quality criteria that we have written in the QMS, that has to be adhered to. Then inspection and testing. This is the validation phase. Verification is the inspection means verification and testing means validation. So under this, all design documents as well as other output documents should be formally inspected or formally reviewed. Then when we come to the construction, we produce the program codes. So the program codes have to be effectively verified by using walkthrough methods and other review methods, and also tested. And it has to be tested based on different levels of testing which is to be done. This test should be carried out based on a documented test plan. And when we are carrying out the test records have to be maintained. Then you come to the inspection and the test status. The status of all products that undergo inspection or test to be identified and kept with configuration management and release control. That means that we have to first describe all those products, all the work products that come out from the development life cycle, and that will have to be inspected and tested. And at what stage they are, that status of these work products has to be kept with configuration management and release control, whether they were released or they are still in work in progress. Then the control of inspection, measuring and test equipment. This refers to the tools or any software environment that we are looking into for either testing or for inspection. And we need to maintain or calibrate it. That means we need to maintain, we need to know the capability of it, and how well, if there is a new version for it, then we have to buy the new version or upgrade it. It has to continuously maintain all these tools and equipments that we are using. And then lastly, the quality audits, the statistical techniques have to be used. Those also need to be well documented, and the quality audit has to be carried out, and the record of the quality audit has to be there, and the compliance level has to be computed and also communicated to the stakeholders, to the particular practitioners who are doing it, so that any non-conformance is found out at the time of audit, that can be rectified in the subsequent time. We come to the process assessment. Process assessment is basically using those two quality management models, or the meta models, the frameworks that are used for quality assessment of the process. So here we have two types of assessments. One is CMM based, the other is ISO based. So for CMM based, the earlier process was CBA IPI, that is CMM based appraisal for internal process improvement. So either it can be continuous or staged. So either the capability or the maturity of the process will be of the organization, either the capability of the process or the maturity of the organization will be assessed. And in the staged approach, all projects need to satisfy the capability in a particular level. That is what we have discussed earlier. In the SCAMPI assessment method, it is a standard CMMI assessment method for process improvement. It is a later stage, and it has it is a 5-step method. So initially they will the assessment team will initiate, and then they will go into the diagnose phase, where they will analyze the records, and they will try to check the establishment, whether things are established or not. Then they will do the acting and the learning. So there are 5 steps that this SCAMPI method goes through. Then we have the ISO 9000 2000 version for the software, 9001 2000 version for the software. And it is intended to drive production to higher quality products with the intention of improving customer satisfaction. So these people have a slightly different way. They apply the plan, do, check, act cycle to the software project processes. So they try to see that the plan establishes objective goals, activities, so whether this step is done or not, and thus implements the software process. So whether the framework and the umbrella activities that are there in the software processes, that they are implemented or not. Then they check for the check activities, that is the measurement and monitoring activities are verified. And finally, ACT initiates control and improvement activities, whether the organization has taken any control initiatives or not, and whether they have tried to improve the activities and go for higher quality levels. Now we will look at two more quality models for process improvement. This is called PSP in short. It is a personal software process. It emphasizes personal measurement and control of the work product produced at an individual level and its quality. So there we were talking earlier, we were talking of project and organization. But now we are talking of a single person, a software engineer who is working as a team member. How he can contribute, how he can control, how he can contribute to the quality, and how he can control his own work product, how he can show where his own working level is, whether he is able to produce good quality consistently or not, or rather whether he is able to improve his own working quality to produce better quality tasks, or able to adhere to better process compliance. So PSP defines a framework with 5 activities. That is planning, high-level design, then high-level design review of the high-level design, then the development, and finally the post-mortem. in PSP, each software engineer is expected to identify the defects. So out of these 5 activities, whichever activity he is concerned with, he will check his own work product and his own work process, and he will try to find out the defects in it. So he will analyze the tasks that are given to him, the inputs that is given to him, the output that he is producing, and he will try to find out defects that is happening over time as and when the activities are going on. He will try to analyze the cause. He will do a normal analysis, take some statistical units, and he will try to make improvements or take preventive actions to avoid defects. So it is a very disciplined and metric based approach, and since it is done at a software engineered level, or rather at the grassroots level, it encourages a quality culture in the organization right from the bottom level. And similarly, we have the team software process, where instead of the individual, it is a team that is working towards improving the software quality. They are not created. These teams are not created. They are not same as the project teams. They are not created by the management or or the customer or anybody in the management team of the organization which is developing it. It is self-directed project teams. That means certain team members, certain software engineers, they come together on their own and form teams to do the TSP quality process, to implement it, and they are self-motivated and self-organized. So here again, the TSP defines 5 activities. So there's a launch, there's a high-level design, then instead of the review, there's the implementation, and there is integration and test, and a post-mortem. So the team does all these 5 activities, and because it is a team, and there is a communication between the teams, so they use a lot of forms, standards, and process definition scripts, and those are created to help in guiding the team members for their own work product as well as for improving the software quality. And the team members set project objectives, and as and when they go through all these activities, they adapt the process to meet their goals. They manage and they control the schedules. They take the metrics, collect measurements and compute the metrics, and continuously they monitor, so that there is to check that there is no deviation. And if there is a deviation, it moves away from the goal, then they take some corrective actions. And finally, they try to improve their process that they are using, or they try to create new innovative ideas. And those improvement actions are carried out over time, and the improvement metrics are monitored. So, in summary, we have looked into so many things. We have discussed the CMMI Process Quality Framework in very much detail. It is from the Software Engineering Institute of Carnegie Mellon, specially created for software industry. We looked into how they have defined the process areas, and how they are doing the assessments, staged and the levels, the staged and the continuous mode of assessment. And then we have also seen the International Standard Organization Process Quality Management, and we have gone through different process assessment methods by CMM and ISO 9000. Then finally, we have also discussed the PSP and TSP frameworks. In general, we have in this lesson we have understood the role of process. How important is the role of process for ensuring consistent software quality, and how many different ways we can try to improve the process quality in the effort to have good software quality has been discussed. So thank you all. In the subsequent classes, we will be looking into more and more into the process and the other software engineering activities.